Hello and welcome to More Than a Game, a podcast about the A-Leagues, Premier League and more. This week, the Vuck make an unexpected return to the Banter era. The McBulls are top of the league. Listeners, do not adjust your headsets. I repeat, the McBulls are top of the league. World-class Sam Kerr reminds Ballon d'Or voters how good she is. And of course, I'd be remiss if I wasn't to mention world-class Arthur Masuaku's stunner at the London Stadium. All right, now that I've managed to shoehorn that one in, and I can pretty much just wrap the pot up now, really. But no, look, there's a lot of football for us to talk about this week. Joining me on the pod is Damo and Jesse. Boys, we're recording on a Monday night tonight this week. How are you doing on this fine Monday night?
I'm good. The voice is a little bit under the weather for multiple reasons, but we'll crack on.
And you, Jesse?
I'm good. I haven't sung the D song probably 500 times like you did yesterday, Damo. So my voice is probably in better shape. But I'm sure the euphoria made up for it, mate.
Yeah, great day. As you can see, I've got the Premier's hat on still.
Damo, I've got to say, I didn't actually realise what you were doing until I saw something about it on Twitter yesterday. I didn't realise everyone went to the MCG to watch a replay on the big screen of last year's AFL Grand Final. That's both incredible and incredibly fucked up.
So nearly 40,000 people went to watch a game from 2.5 months ago where we all knew exactly what happened in every moment of the game. Yes, it was great.
I reckon there would have been 40,000 partners going, you're going to the stadium to watch a repeat of it?
Pretty much.
All right, mate. Let's get into some football, though. Jesse, what about you, mate? What was your moment of the week?
On any usual week, it would be Origi banging in a last-minute winner. But I'm going to branch out a little bit here and a hat tip, pun intended, to the arrival of the Phoenix with the women's team this week. And the double header and the gong. Now that I say that out loud, it does sound a bit weird. But the double header at the gong and the early kickoff, and then the men's at 7:30 afterwards, or 7:45 afterwards. It was great to have two games, same teams playing. But first and foremost, it was wonderful that history was made in the Phoenix fielded a women's team who held their own to a 0-0 draw, which we'll talk about later on. So yeah, plenty of great moments this week, but hard to go past that one for me.
Nice one. What about you, Damo?
My moment of the week has to be Sam Kerr and the Ballon d'Or, top three.
Moment of the week.
Very understated. I mean, it's a moment of the week for the fact that we have an Australian who is considered one of the best three players in the world. It's been a very underreported feat that Sam Kerr has achieved. Although we think she should have won, and we would have loved to have seen that. Wasn't to be, but to finish third in a Ballon d'Or is nothing to scoff at. So an incredible achievement.
So I've got the makeup of the votes for the Ballon d'Or. So Alexia Putellas, she got 186 points in the votes, and Sam Kerr got 46. So a little ways off in terms of the voting. I think second was not much higher than Sam. So I guess she's thereabouts, but still the vast majority of the overwhelming majority of the pundits seem to think that Alexia deserved to take out the prize this year. So,
well, she was a superstar in by far and away the best women's team in the world. So, makes sense.
It helps, right? All right, and for me, look, it's been a big week. There's been a lot of great football going down. Obviously, the Wolves pushed the Mariners all the way in the FFA Cup, the Fuck Up. It wasn't to be in the end, so I couldn't quite make that my moment of the week this week, but it was a lot of fun. I have to use, I guess, kind of like what Jesse would do and just use sort of a big club result, though. Saturday night's big win against Chelsea for West Ham. I really can't go past that. It was a special night. All the boys were there. It was a really good turnout at the pub as well. Plenty of people were in song. The beers, the English beers were flowing as well. Just a great night. And
fans were infighting against each other in the pub. I mean, typical scenes for West Ham fans.
I actually don't remember that, but
It was me and George.
And look, I probably do have to have a shout out for George. Chelsea supporting George came to a West. He's in Australia only for a couple of weeks while I think he's here for a wedding and also to see his family. And he came to a West Ham pub to watch West Ham beat Chelsea. So I think I've probably got to give shout out to George for moment of the week as well for that. It was a very good sport.
Thank you for your
service. Jesse, what about you? What didn't you like this week?
Oh, guys, like it's pretty hard to find anything. I mean, when I was really looking for something to pick out, I was thinking a bit about the Phoenix game with Sale. I mean, Ollie Sale's been really, really great for us, and there's never really been an opportunity for me to say much bad about him at all. It's just one of those moments which I think he'll learn from as a goalkeeper, where he just made a poor decision, and the Wanderers really struggled to break down the Phoenix, and we'll talk about it a bit later on. But that kind of opened the gates to the end result in the end, and the Wanderers getting the victory. It was just one of those moments where the goalkeeper really, if you're going to come for the ball, you've got to make sure of it or punch it away, and he didn't do either. So we ended up conceding from that. So probably
if you're going to come, you've really got to make sure you hit the target.
Yeah, that's right. So at least punch it away. So I'm grasping at straws a little bit for an own goal of the week, and it's a bit harsh on a goalkeeper to pick him out. But I mean, that's as best as I could do, really.
Sometimes it is tough some weeks to find something you don't like in the world of football. But I appreciate that, Jesse. Damo, what about you, mate? What didn't you like?
It doesn't feel like it only happened about 4 or 5 days ago, because we've had 2 rounds of the Premier League and A-League in there. But for me, my own goal was the Qatari government or Qatari representatives assuring the safety of LGBTQ people at the World Cup, players, officials, everyone alike, but saying that Qatar is a nation where we don't like any sort of public affection. So regardless, you can come and you will be accepted, but don't kiss in public regardless. So for me, that was a bit of a very big own goal. So I mean, it's just all running down the path of this World Cup is getting worse and worse, and we haven't even got anywhere near it yet.
Show me like an example of someone missing the point more than the Qatari government when in this instance, where they were like, no, like we're not just against LGBTQ displays of affection. Like we're against all of it. It's like, what?
Yeah,
you're not allowed to have affection for your football team.
No, you can just imagine how many like 50-year-old shirtless men are going to get locked up after they embrace like the nearest fan at any of the games, right? Qatari government's going to be all over that.
A few fans just going missing, you would say, at the next World Cup.
I mean, normally it's just the hosts that go missing, but their fans are going to go missing now too. All right, as far as my own goal goes, though, I think I probably couldn't go past Jude Bellingham's rant after losing to Klassiker yesterday for Dortmund against Bayern. Obviously, a game with plenty of feeling and heat in it, but pretty much after the game or after there was a late penalty that was given to Bayern, Jude Bellingham, I think he's only still like 19 or something, which is incredible because I think he's still played like over 100 games or 100 league games, I'm pretty sure. But he pretty much alluded or implied that the referee was corrupt and said that he said if the referee had previously been accused, previously been found guilty of match fixing, what do you expect? And it was like, whoa. And I mean, we always talk about how we wish like players were a little bit more honest and sort of not as polished, but wowee, I mean, that was next level.
So off the back of that, which you may or may not have seen over the last 24 hours, the Jude Bellingham has actually been issued a criminal complaint for defamation by the referee that he insulted. So yeah, for an 18-year-old has got himself in a bit of stick with with one little sentence. So we'll see what comes of that.
Society, be yourself. Also, society, not like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
It'd be very interesting to see what Dortmund's response is as well. I mean, they're likely to back their player, and really, I guess it's the player's choice sort of how he responds to this. But I think it'd be well advised to say, mate, take the L and just say, yeah, my bad. I take that back and issue a public apology, and then everyone can get on with their lives.
I think the funniest thing to this, the reaction to what he said is everyone has sort of said, "Oh, you can't say that," but I mean, he's not wrong, because this referee was actually convicted of being a part of a match fixing scandal. So,
which kind of boggles the mind. Like, how is he still refereeing at the highest level, right? Like, I mean, I'm probably buying into Bellingham's point a little bit now, but still, like, surely, like, I'm not surprised that he's still refereeing, but at the very highest level, that kind of does surprise me, I guess, a little bit. Anyway. All right, a few other news items this week. We've talked about one half of the Ballon d'Or already, with Sam Kerr obviously pushing Alexia Putellas, I'll kind of say all the way. But look, the men's Ballon d'Or was keenly contested, far more keenly contested than it maybe has been in previous years, with, of course, Leo Messi, him taking out the men's award. But he was on 613 points. But Robert Lewandowski, he was very close in second, which pretty much for the last 10 years, it's just been Messi and Ronaldo just neck and neck, and then daylight second, third, fourth, and fifth, and then someone else. But yeah, Lewandowski obviously went very close. Boys, do you think he should have been, he was in with a real shout of winning it? Obviously, a lot of other people did. What do you guys think?
It's whenever the Ballon d'Or comes around, I think the most interesting part of the Ballon d'Or is the conversations that come after it, and everyone thinks someone else has been robbed, and everyone has different opinions, and that's the glory of football. But at the end of the day, they've compiled the opinions of how many people, and Messi has come out on top of it. So it's sort of hard to argue with. However it's judged, people say it's a popularity contest. Maybe it is, but I mean, football's a game of opinions, and in most people's opinion, Messi was the best.
It's kind of like the way that award is run is like they made their bed in a way, and it's like they can't sort of unmake it. Like they've given so many players that award over the years based on trophies, and even though there might have been other players in that year that were just like absolute talismans for their team and carried them to finals, maybe didn't win. Doesn't matter. It's just like, for them, it's like if you've got the silverware, then you've got at least one hand on the Ballon d'Or, and that's the problem, is that there are players. I mean, I guess what I'm saying doesn't necessarily apply to Lewandowski, because he still won silverware, but it just seems like one of those things which is kind of like a victim of its past. It's like, here's the precedence of all the other people that have won it, and that's what you need to live up to. And when you've got the last person was Messi or Ronaldo, it's like, well, how does Lewandowski do a Messi or Ronaldo in a normal calendar year? It's like, well, he can't.
So I think the last person to win it outside of Messi or Ronaldo was Kaká in 2007.
Sorry, I lie. It was Modric, which was only 3 years ago, wasn't it? 2 years ago?
I think he won FIFA the Best award. I don't think he won the Ballon d'Or.
Is that what it's called? FIFA the Best?
Yep, something like that. There was a period where FIFA actually had a partnership with France Football, and the award was called the FIFA Ballon d'Or. And then when they split, Modric won the FIFA award, and the Ballon d'Or has now taken over again and reigned as the more supreme trophy.
Yeah, fair enough. Was we happy that Lewandowski polled above Jorginho?
Yes.
I mean, from his mother nation, he should poll above everybody, really, shouldn't he? Jorginho, guys, I mean, discuss.
What is there to discuss? I think he finished like fourth or fifth, and that's probably about right, I think.
Goes anonymous for 89 minutes and does a jumpy boy penalty and comes third in the Ballon d'Or.
Great assist for the first goal against Chelsea, though. Got to say, that was his back pass to Mendy, might add. Anyway, I'm going to shoehorn West Ham at every opportunity on this pod, and we'll probably have about 5 listeners by the end of it. But let's move on, though. Sticking with Sam Kerr. Sam Kerr and the Matildas played against the USA on Tuesday in Newcastle in front of just over 20,000 screaming fans. Great turnout for the fans, but I think they probably would have been a little bit disappointed with the performance. Decent result in the end with a 1-1 draw. They conceded in the first minute and then got a pretty late equaliser. But Damo, how concerned do you think we should be about the Matildas heading into the Asian Cup early next year?
I don't know. There was a lot to unpack from those couple of games. Obviously, the first game wasn't great at all. The second game, the USA just looked like no one was going to get past them at all. Australia really struggled to break them down, even with some of the best attacking talent in the world, like Sam Kerr. Really couldn't create anything, and probably got a little bit lucky to get an equaliser. But in terms of the Asian Cup, there's just no one at the Asian Cup that's going to be on the USA's level. So I think it was good for Australia to play someone like the USA, who are undoubtedly always one of the best countries in the world in women's football, and really test themselves against the best before they head off to a tournament where they expect to come away at least to make the final, if not to win the whole thing.
Just going to come in here with a completely outside opinion and also say that I think if you think back to the last major tournament, I think maybe a few of us forget that, Australia did actually struggle at times to score goals. I think that we sort of just see so many of the players now doing so well in the Premier League and outside of that in Europe as well. And they collectively, there's some great players there in that Matildas team. But I think that we, as far as attacking output, I don't know about you guys, but my sort of memories of the last major tournament was them just sort of like getting frustrated by the teams, not scoring the amount of goals that they probably should. Kerr scoring penalties or scoring a last minute one to sort of keep them in it. Like, it's like I think the frustration is that, and I'm not even a Matildas fan, is that they look like they could do a lot better up front. And sometimes I feel like she sort of carries the team a little bit like that, whereas you need more. I think the team needs to sort of hum more as a unit to get more attacking output.
I think I can kind of, expand a little bit upon, I think, the point that you're trying to make there, Jesse, about how it sort of felt like they've struggled to control the midfield in some games against top-level opponents, and it's meant that Sam Kerr has often been isolated. And, she's a fantastic player, but when there's not another player for 20 metres around her, it makes it really difficult for her, and she's got a lot of ground to cover, and it's a challenge, I guess, for the Matildas as they continue to build, I guess, for the World Cup in 2023.
Just to change topic real quickly, but keep it on the Sam Kerr story. Chelsea played Arsenal in the Women's FA Cup final last night, and Chelsea came away, and Sam Kerr scored an absolute peach of a goal. A little dink from inside the 18-yard box over a keeper who was stranded. But yeah, another trophy for Sam Kerr and another trophy for Chelsea women.
She only just got off the plane, didn't she? She had been home.
Pretty much.
Quarantining at the stadium. All right. On the topic of the World Cup in 2023, I never said it that way. I don't know why I said it that way then. But the fixtures were announced this week with Melbourne. They're going to be getting 2 games in the round of 16, 4 group games, and Sydney, between the SFS and the Olympic Stadium, will get 11 games, including the Matildas opener and first game on match day 1. Auckland, meanwhile, will be getting the first game of the tournament, the tournament opener, and also gets a semi-final as well. Boys, given that we live in Melbourne, so it's a very Melbourne-centric podcast, how disappointed are you that we're not going to get any games past the round of 16?
I was more shocked by it than disappointed, really. I was just under the assumption that Melbourne would have maybe even a semi-final. But But yeah, it has played out. You know, I'll end up going to a couple of games, and I think one of the Matildas games is confirmed to be in Melbourne, so I'm sure I'll get a ticket to that, or at least try. But yeah, I guess it is what it is. It's in the middle of the AFL season, and AFL kind of rules the roost here in Melbourne, and Vic Police have said that they just don't have the capacity to sort of be able to have more people, more staff at more events.
I guess it is a big problem for the AFL. They do have a lot of a big requirement for police for just, I guess, keeping the peace at their games. So understandable there. I guess it is going to be very exciting to see how tricky it is to get tickets for the Matildas games in Sydney or wherever they might end up being, depending on how the draw goes. But I guess it is looking like either the semis or the final in Sydney, depending on how deep the Matildas go. Those are going to be the most keenly sought after tickets since the Asian Cup final in 2016. So
the Matildas could be playing a semi-final in Auckland.
Wouldn't that be awkward?
You know, they'll get the greatest hospitality, guys. Don't worry about that.
Roll out the black and white carpet for them. All right, boys. Let's get into some A-League, shall we? All right. First up, we're gonna roll through the games this week in reverse chronological order. So first up is the Vuck versus Perth. That's 100% record Melbourne Victory hosting Perth Glory, who were on the road without their marquee. And look, everyone was expecting Perth to struggle this season as well. You expect the Vuck would have done the Glory in a canter, but look, it just wasn't the case. In fact, boys, Banter era Vuck are back, baby. So look, 3 cracking goals from Berkey Roy, Kieran Bramwell, and Bruno Fornaroli gave the Glory the 3 points and demonstrated that Popper still has got plenty to do with the Vuck. Boys, is there a better sign that a team didn't play well than some people saying, or some fans saying, that Lee Broxham earned points in their 3-2-1?
Yeah, it's not a good look, is it? I think he's been at the club the whole existence, and he's still polling points in a vote count. It's not good, not the best. Look, I just thought it was great. I was on Swan Street, obviously late yesterday, leaving the MCG, and it was packed with Melbourne Victory fans about to head off to Amy Park for this game, and you could just feel this air of arrogance and confidence that Melbourne Victory sort of portray when they're playing well, and well within reason. They're a big club that win a lot of stuff, but it couldn't have come at a better time for Melbourne Victory to lose the way they did after the big ones they've been giving for the first couple of weeks.
There was quite a gust of wind last night, and I could only attribute it to just a huge exhalation coming from where the game was played, just going rippling Melbourne. The cool breeze of exhalation, and also just coming down to earth a bit. But I mean, boys, we'd be remiss to not actually acknowledge the reason why a lot of them will say they got steamrolled, and that's a game-changing red card, which, you can't kick a person in the face.
Well, I had a question about this.
Go on.
So my question was, we posted a tweet a while ago about someone getting a yellow card, and we said, why didn't VAR review that? And we got absolutely blasted for not knowing the rules that you can't overturn a yellow card with VAR. So what happened here? He got yellow carded originally, and then VAR told him to go and have a look, and he overturned the yellow card to a red card. So what is the rule?
They did that in the Premier League as well. We've seen that in the Premier League.
I don't remember the exact incident that was in question, but I guess the difference with this one was upgraded from a yellow to a red. And that's the important difference here, was that they said, no, it's not whether this is a yellow or not a yellow. This was whether or not it should have been a straight out red card. And boys, I guess I got a follow-up question for you. Which red card was worse, Roy O'Donovan on Lawrence Thomas or Ramashan on Sunday?
Was the Roy O'Donovan's the one that left Earthworm Jim with the strapping around his head, right?
That's the one. The one.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. He had like stud marks in his cheek. I'm gonna stick with that.
Boo! Won't bite. Come on.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Boys, question from listener as well. Through House, he asks, who would you rather fight, Steve McGarry or Kurt Ames?
I'd probably go home, leave them to fight each other.
Yeah, just say you wouldn't believe what he said about you in this league.
Boys, we haven't talked a huge amount about the actual game, and only having caught the highlights myself. I do have to say that I want to throw out about the XG of this game, and it was 0.53 to 0.67. So I've got to say that this, although the score did kind of blow out a little bit, this was not two teams creating heaps of fantastic opportunities. So, look, if there is one thing that maybe the Vuck can hold up in their own court about this performance, and I guess moving forward, is that they still didn't really give Perth a lot of opportunities in the second half when they were down to 10 men. So, I think as much as we joke about the Vuck, and that's kind of an embarrassing result, especially against Perth and this Perth team, I think it's I think we need to wait and see how they go next week to really get an idea of how they're going to be going this season.
Yeah, and to be fair, it took a few spectacular goals to make that scoreline. I think Burke Gilroy's strike to open the scoring was brilliant, and Fornaroli replicated his opening weekend goal, maybe just with a little bit less height on it. So yeah, two fantastic goals, and Burke Gilroy with a great whipped in cross for the second goal as well. So yeah, they were all brilliant goals, and that's kind of the only thing that really broke Victory down.
If there's one great thing as well about this round of A-League, was that the goal of the week is actually going to be really tricky this week, right? Because you had Burke Gilroy, his effort, Fornaroli's absolute banger, and then I really liked the goal in the MacArthur Mariners game. I thought that was an absolute peach of a goal, just purely not so much the goal itself, but just Danny De Silva just putting Runtonic just on his ass on halfway. I thought that was fantastic. But look,
he sent him back to Campbelltown.
Who's going to claim Gilroy as their boy? I mean, it's just it's a ticking time bomb, isn't it?
Didn't someone? I thought someone would have.
Yeah, I don't recall anybody gassing him up, so I feel like he's what do you say in draft? He's a free agent.
Wasn't he at Brisbane last season?
Yeah, he was on an injury replacement contract at Brisbane. They signed him from, I think he was at Hume or one of the Victorian NPL clubs he was at, and he was at Brisbane for about 8 weeks, and then just didn't sign a first team contract, and now he's gone to Perth, and he's been brilliant. So our loss.
You didn't want him.
And we've got Jack Hingett, so love that.
Rip. All right, I've kind of already transitioned into the MacArthur Mariners game nicely, and I've already probably mentioned the best part about the game as well, which was Danny De Silva skinning Tongic on halfway, and then they ended up playing it through, and Bozanic, he was credited with the own goal, but arguably harshly so, because I think it probably should have been Davila who actually got credited with the goal, truth be told, but anyway, this is why I
think that was off target, wasn't it?
I thought it was on target, but I mean, I didn't see it from behind.
If you look at the shot from behind, it looked like he dragged it pretty wide. So I think that's the criteria for an own goal.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
You got to take the rough with the smooth when you're living Davila Loca.
But I guess, look, this was an interesting game for a couple of reasons. The McBulls played this one at Penrith, which is a whopping 50 Ks from their regular home in Campbelltown.
Did you say Penrith?
Penrith, there, the Riff.
Yeah.
Which is, like, I mean, that's also firmly Wanderers territory as well, which, I mean, it's just a bit average. But having said that, though, it is a good sized stadium, and I did see a couple of brown patches, and like the pitch didn't look ideal. Probably still a lot better than Campbelltown though. So yeah, exactly. But look what else. So interesting factoid about this game as well. You had Mark Gibberigidi, who was suspended for that absolutely just piece of violence midweek in the FFA Cup. I think he just basically sort of threw the shoulder in the general direction of a player. But Yaron Souza, who's the Mariners' second choice goalkeeper, he went off injured after 20 minutes. So And let's be honest, most A-League teams don't have 3 goalkeepers, or they might have a young player like an 18-year-old who could be the third goalkeeper. But it did mean that the Mariners sent on Lawrence Caruso, who, as much as I could scour the internet, couldn't find out how old he was. So
He's
I'm
17.
going to assume it. All right,
Yeah,
there you go.
17 years old. I was watching the mini match of this earlier, and I mean, he had a couple of dodgy moments with crosses, but he made 2
17,
brilliant
right?
saves. He made 2 brilliant saves, and did really well for a 17-year-old who was having no expectation to play any first team games all season. Has been thrust into a game and played, over 40 minutes of a game. At A-League level in round 3. So, yeah, good on him.
It was almost 70 minutes, yeah. So, fantastic stuff for him. And, I mean, this is how Matty Ryan got his start at the Mariners as well, right? I think he was only 18. So, you never know. We could have unearthed the next Matty Ryan sort of inadvertently this weekend. So, remember the name, Lawrence Caruso. Boys, I mentioned it at the top as well. The Bulls with 2 wins and a draw are top of the league. Did you have this on your bingo card?
I'll say Jesse certainly didn't.
I've got beef with that club.
Oh gosh!
And boys, a bit of a stat as well. So Adelaide, the Wanderers, and the Bulls are the 3 unbeaten teams at the moment. Although Adelaide haven't actually won a game yet, so you've got to take that with a little bit of grain of salt, though. So, yeah. Next up, Sydney, they hosted Newcastle Jets in a really fun game on Saturday night at Cogra. LaFondra opened the scoring for Sydney from the penalty spot. Then he set up Elvis Kamsoba for Sydney's second. Yep, that's right. Elvis Kamsoba is scoring goals now. Sydney were up 2-0 after 35 minutes and looked to be cruising. But then the game kind of got away on them a little bit in the second half with Pena sliding one through to Tino Yule. I don't know when he suddenly become Tino instead of Valentino, but look, he slipped one through past Redmayne after VAR interference to rule the goal was onside in the end. And then Yule again popped up with another fantastic finish on the counter to level things up. But there was still pretty much half an hour of the game to go, and you would have thought City maybe could have gone through the gears and found another goal, but they thought that they had on about the 76th minute, but VAR ended up chalking this one off for offside. Everyone thought it was a goal. Everyone had gone back to halfway and was ready to kick off, and then VAR got involved, and in fact even the Papas even had a triple sub ready to go, and I don't think he ended up going through with it, but boys, what would you have done? You're ready to go with a triple sub, and then pretty much the whole scenario gets sort of thrown up in the air. What do you do? Do you make the triple sub, or do you just go, all right, no, I need a few minutes to reassess here? What's your game management strategy?
Well, I think you'd have to pull away from the subs and think about what you're going to do again, because you're making a change to try and change the game, and now the game has already changed. So yeah, I think you probably
boys get your jackets, put your jackets back on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sit back down.
All those 18-year-olds going, yes, I'm going to get a game, but yeah, I think not the case.
My favorite moment from this game, and it'd be remiss of us to not mention that our friend Robbie Thompson on comms really putting mayo on Adam Lefondre again.
Oh. I thought you said, did you say Archie Thompson then, or did you say Robbie Thompson? All right. Because, I mean, I find myself, because Robbie Thompson, he is a little bit he's a bit vanilla compared to some of the other A-League commentators, but that just him rolling out a little bit off a little bit left of center sort of remarks like that. It shows he's got like a little. There's an interesting sense of humor in there, but it's subtle. It doesn't really slap you in the face.
And they were really pumping up Tino Yule, and he and Andy Harper were both, every time he touched the ball, Tino Yule. But just a quick note on Tino Yule. Hasn't he been on absolute fire so far this year? Arguably one of the best players in the league so far, in my opinion.
He's absolutely killing it.
Only 3 weeks, but
In fact, boys, I mentioned in the group chat today about how I'm playing A-League fantasy this year just to kind of get my head around how it all works and the like, and in preparation, I guess, for next year when everyone goes all in on A-League fantasy. But Tino Yule, he was the big he had the biggest price rise out of any player this week in the first week of price rises. So there you go.
You're gonna put the captain on him next week.
I'd have to bring him into my team first. Like I said, I don't know how this all works. Apparently, he's good. Boys, on the topic of Sydney, they've only I don't know how many games they've won or lost, but Sydney are missing some of that control that Bratton would previously provide, though. And with Bratton out for the rest of the season, they could still sign an injury replacement. There's Barmyohan, who they just let go of. He could come in and do a job. Maybe he's not quite a Bratton like for like. Adrian Merzaevski, ex-Sydney player, he was on social media just, I think about a week ago, talking with a couple of Sydney players saying, yep, basically come and get me. And obviously James Caruso, he's not playing much at the moment as well. And then you've also got Jack Wilshere. He was sort of in the news this week as well. So would you take any of them if you were the City manager, if you were Steve Corica?
Well, the first three are polar opposite players of Luke Bratton, so I don't think they'd be considered at all as a replacement for him. But Jack Wilshere, it's a great shout that I didn't even consider. He's maybe Jack Rodwell can convince him to come to Sydney.
Jack Wilshere got an Aussie girl as well, does he?
Doubt it.
Maybe you got to work on that first. Get him an Aussie girl first, and then maybe he'll come out. Do a Max Rushton / Jack Rodwell. Boys, favourite Sydney and Melbourne City for the A-League crown this year have a combined 6 points from the first 6 matches in the first 3 rounds. How good is the A-League?
This is why I hate doing our A-League preview pod and publishing our predictions on the internet, because it's nearly impossible to get them right year on year.
Just make a fool out of us every week.
Tipping's pretty tough, and certainly tougher for me when I forget to put them in.
Actually, you'd probably do better. I think if you forget to put them in, you're automatically assigned the away team win. So I think you're probably doing better than the people who tried to guess them right.
Boys, Melbourne City hosted Western United on Saturday night. We were at this one at Amy Park. Really fun game. Game was played at a really high intensity. Look, some players did better than others, though. Matthew Leckie is one of the players that didn't do so well. Looks out of form, looks out of fitness. And to be honest, I think he looks unbefitting in Melbourne City, let alone the Socceroos, based off of his current form the last few weeks. What should City do?
Well,
I'm glad I'm not.
5 arrows in me, considering that I, gassed him up to win Johnny Warren. So at this point, MacArthur doing well, and Leckie's an absolute spud. So things aren't looking great in my corner.
Oh dear. Boys, I did notice that, I should mention the score in this one. Western United did end up taking out the win 1-0 with Dylan Wenzel-Hall, Damo, your boy, and Colby's boy from the Raw. He got the solitary goal on this one. But I did notice that there was a few moments where some of the father figures in the squad, in Alessandro Diamanti and Neil Kilkenny, they were really getting around Dylan Wenzel-Hall. Who do you think would be a better father figure for Dylan Wenzel-Hall, Diamanti or Kilkenny?
Well, I think Diamanti would be the fun uncle, and the father figure I'm going to put out there is Lacroix at the back because Lacroix was absolutely sensational all night, Tommie.
We just had to shoehorn in how well he played, didn't we?
Yeah. If Dylan Wenzel-Hall didn't behave himself, you'd know that he would absolutely crucify him, wouldn't he?
That's right. He's the sort of the intimidating father figure.
Mm. But as I mentioned, the XG in the Vuck game, this one was 1.26 to 0.34, so far more in City's favour. Did the Woo get away with one here?
I don't know. It was a great finish from Dylan Wenzel-Halls and quite early on in the game. And I think, and we were talking about it at the game, it really puts the onus on Melbourne City to really break them down. And there's a lot of pressure, both internally from the fans that build. There's an expectation that they'll come back and win the game. And you could almost feel that sort of pressure building the longer the game went on without City getting a real sort of clear-cut chance at goal. And the Woo were brilliant defensively from when they scored. So I think it would be unfair on them to say that they got away with one. I think they went into the game with a game plan. You're not going to go toe-to-toe with Melbourne City. You've got to win any way you can. And I think they did a brilliant job. And I think it was a great tactical game. And all props to John Aloisi as a manager that gets a lot of stick for having no tactics.
Exactly.
John Aloisi, tactical genius.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's easy to be a tactical genius, though, when you're up 1-0 and you're like, all right, we're going to manage this out. I mean, it's like it was the perfect start for the Woo. And yeah, you're right, Damo. The game we were saying that. The other thing that we were talking about was the fact that just the style of play that City was just playing straight into the Woo's hands. Like they were just constantly trying to go down the side. Even when players were sort of on the edge of the box and probably could have even taken a shot, they're like, no, the system says that I need to get it out wide and then we're going to cross it in. And the reason why I was making the shout out to big number 4 for the Woo earlier on was because he was so prominent because his job was to clear ball after ball after ball. And it was just, that's his job. But he should, if you really want to beat the Woo in that instance, you got to take the centre backs out of the game. Like they were just basically doing what they want to do, which is just clear balls coming in from the side of the box. So it became predictable, it became lethargic. And I think touching on Damo's point, it's kind of shows how vulnerable these teams can be when they go behind instead of having it their way and starting on like a house on fire. It's actually, it requires a different set of skills and resilience to come back after you've gone down from an early goal. So that'll be interesting to see how City bounce back.
Can we already just label the Woo's big number 4 as the A-League's Virgil van Dijk, the big Rolls Royce at the back?
I may have said that on Saturday night.
Say it on the pod, coward.
I'm too busy saying La Croix.
All right. Brisbane, they hosted Adelaide in the sweltering heat up in Brisbane on Saturday in the earlier game. Unfortunately, the action on the pitch wasn't as hot as the game, with this one finishing scoreless. Ivanovic missed a tap in, and Stephen Mork went close as well for Adelaide, hitting the post, and then rebounded off goalkeeper Macklin Freak. Harvey Norman Lopez was shown a red card with 10 seconds left in the game for a second yellow, though, and that has got to be one of the stupidest things I've seen all weekend because it was a completely unnecessary tackle, let alone yellow card, and for him to get sent off as well is just stupid. Maybe he doesn't want to travel next weekend, although Adelaide probably have a home game.
Like someone having an argument with a bouncer at like 3 a.m. and you just like just walk away, bro.
Just go home.
Just go. I'm going to give this guy a piece of my mind. And you're just like, see you later.
But Damo, question for you. At Feely's Nabi Lad, he asks, is there any hope for the Raw?
I think there is. I think, and
Love your optimism.
I feel like I've been repeating myself week after week, that there has to come a time soon where that they play good patches of football at times and people come off the back of a game and say, they could be good. They could be good. And it's almost feeling like that time has now come to an end. And if they don't get a result next week, and the week after, Warren Moon's job could be gone by Christmas. So, or at least by the new year when fixtures start to pile up around that period. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Warren Moon, for being a very reactive kind of manager. He's brought a lot of young players in with very little A-League experience. It's a very NPL experience, heavy side, the youth players. It's good to see them getting some game time and there's some promising players there, but there really seems like there's parts missing and they can't string a full game of good football together. They play great football in patches, but it's just not good enough at that level.
Fair enough. Boys, there was a big head clash in this one in the Raw box between Stephen Mork and one of the Raw players. I got to throw it out there. I don't think there's a harder head in the A-League than Stefan Mork. So who do you think would win in a fight, Stefan Mork's head or Ramashan's foot?
Stefan Mork's head could win in a fight against a brick wall, so I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, and then Suchek out of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh dear. And look, finally on Friday night, Wellington, they hosted the Wanderers kind of in Wollongong. First game of the round. Jesse, as our resident Knicks fan, were you more disappointed with the results or were you more positive about the performance?
Yeah, it's like there were actually periods of that game in the first half where the Phoenix made the Wanderers look really average. And I think Wanderers fans would actually say the same, because I hopped on the tour at halftime and they're basically just like, there was a lot of them that were just like, okay, so what point do we just say Robinson out? And
they were
then
blowing up. Yep.
They were not happy. So I think that, we can probably agree on that. But the second half, there definitely were periods where the Wanderers picked it up, and then the Knicks really notably sort of tired after about the 70-minute mark, or maybe their inexperience started to show. And it was quite obvious because the Wanderers hadn't been able to play direct all night, but all of a sudden they were threading passes through the midfield and actually making it like look really quite paper thin. So in the end, they probably deserved that goal. I think the Knicks deserved a goal as well, but their sort of time had passed and they hadn't taken their opportunities, which, as I said to you, I say this every week, they are the Brighton of the A-League, basically. Create a lot and just can't quite put it away. But the last goal, obviously, our goalkeeper's gone up for it and the ball's gone away and the guys run the length of the pitch and scored. So the scoreline maybe flatters them a little bit. But I think all in all, maybe it should have been a 1-1, but I think that you just have to give it to the Wanderers for the fact that they were clinical and we weren't, and I can't sort of criticize them for that. And it was just a goalkeeping error really that separated them in the end. So bit of a shame.
You mentioned the Wanderers' performance there, and it's probably an opportune time to give them a little bit of a shout out for maybe the quality of their performance. The Wanderers fans, they were pretty scathing at halftime, and I thought it could be summed up pretty well in one tweet, which I'll paraphrase, which was that patience seems to be running out with Robbo Ball. He's had 2 full preseasons. He's got his own carefully curated squad, and he should have all of the ingredients to make this work now. By now, this should be like a top 4, if not top 2 side. And I mean, it's just not. It's still I think this team is going to struggle to make finals based off of their performances so far this season. So be very disappointed, I guess, if I was a Wanderers fan. But look, still, I guess the thing about the A-League is that just because you play poorly in the first 3 weeks doesn't necessarily mean you're going to play like that for the rest of the season. So we'll have to see what happens from here. But look, we're going to talk a little bit of Premier League now. So 2 full rounds of the Premier League have been played, save for 1 match, which is Arsenal versus Everton, to be played tomorrow morning, Australian time. So look, we can't talk about all 19 games, but we'll pick out some of the better ones. And look, I think you all know that I'm going to be talking about West Ham versus Chelsea first, because I think you would all agree. Even West Ham fans would have to say this was the match of the round, or at least the results or the finale of the round. This game had it all: headed goals, penalty goals, goalkeeper errors galore, shithousery. At least localized in the pub we're at. It had songs and beers at the pub. It had a comeback, had a freak goal at the end. And there was even a little bit of poetry courtesy of Chelsea social media. Roses are red, violets are blue. West Ham have scored. Masuaku, which I don't think they meant to do that, but it put a smile on my face anyway. Boys, look, plenty of quality in this game, and I think the Chelsea fans probably would have been pretty disappointed, not just with the result, but I think also with the performance. I think we've said how good they've been at controlling matches for the last probably 12 months since Tuchel's come in, but it finally felt like their lack of I guess pointy end success, whether it be Werner or Lukaku, that kind of finally came and bit them on the backside, and they weren't able to control the game in the same way that maybe they would have been previously as well. Boys, a couple of observations. In fact, no. So first up, Joe Cole, he mentioned he called Arthur Masuaku, called him world class. What do you make of that?
I think when I was told about this piece of footage, I said I don't want to see it.
Yeah, it was a bit that way. But look, like I mentioned before, that this game really had a couple of great finishes, but also had a couple of hours from a goalkeeper as well, or just moments where the goalkeeper maybe should have done better. You had Fabianski, where he let Mason Mount score at the back post. Probably should have done better there. Obviously, you've got Silva's header as well, where Fabianski does get a hand to it, and probably should have done better, I think. And then obviously you've got Mendy's worst performance in a Chelsea kit by some way. Gave away the penalty needlessly when he probably just could have put it out first time. Obviously, there's the freak goal that Masuaku hit. And then also, I think Mendy probably could have done better, although maybe it's a bit more forgivable, the Bowen strike as well. So,
I'll tell you what, mate, if we judge it on your criteria, there'd be no goals in the Premier League every weekend. I mean, I think we need to look more at the quality of the strikes rather than the goalkeeping errors, because, I mean, the Bowen shot was just a beautiful hit. Going back further, like the Mount shot was a beautiful hit. I don't think you can criticize your keeper too much for that. I think maybe for the Thiago Silva, you could say maybe a little bit soft, but still, like, they weren't howlers by any means on Fabianski's side.
But it's not Mendy's fault that Thiago Silva no one was within an arm's length of him when he got a head on that ball. So it's like who was marking him at all? But if we want to talk about the last goal, the M-Tag favorite cross come shot, I'm not sure if you guys have seen Masuaku's tweet. Have you seen it?
No.
Masuaku, he tweeted, so was it a cross or a shot? And then a couple of laughing faces. And then in bracket, hint, I was just as surprised as you. So I think that answers your question.
I wish he hadn't have said. I wish he had just left us guessing.
Yeah. So most players are very coy with it, and they just say, "Oh, I don't know," but he's clearly admitted that it was a cross.
They say that Arthur Masuaku is like the best player on the training pitch, and I mean he's
he's world class.
I wouldn't even say he's been stop-start in a West Ham jersey. I'd say he's just been stop and sort of in neutral. But I mean, he is capable. Like there was that moment of skill against Spurs a couple of years ago where he kind of did like an elastico around a Spurs player. So like he is capable of just weird things on a football pitch, and most of the time they're not good. But I mean, every so often he's capable of pulling out something just bizarre and incredible as well. So good for him. Boys, question for the two of you. Josh Watson wants to know if West Ham can maintain their place in the top four.
I think at the moment, if you look at the top of the league, the top three are probably going to be far and away by the end of the year. And that fourth spot is really the best of the rest sort of thing. And at the moment, yes, I think West Ham are probably the best of the rest, and they've got some good results against teams above them and teams around them. So I think that's really the indicator of who will finish fourth. And West Ham are doing the best at getting points against teams around them. So yeah, from all indicator, I think West Ham can hold on, but yeah, we'll see, won't we?
West Ham are still able to draw with Brighton and lose to Wolves, and so far this season they've beaten City on penalties, albeit in the League Cup. They've beaten Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Spurs, and Leicester. So yeah, like you say, Damo, they are doing very well at taking points off of the teams around them. So shaping up Arsenal versus West Ham in I think 3 weeks' time or 2 weeks' time to be a very, very crucial fixture for both teams. Moving on though, Newcastle, they hosted Burnley and Newcastle won a game. How incredible is that? So look, probably normally wouldn't have Newcastle and Burnley being the second game on the run sheet. But look, I think it'd be remiss if we didn't celebrate the final team getting off the mark in the win column this season. It wasn't a particularly pretty win. Callum Wilson he scored the goal for Newcastle after Nick Pope's howler, where he just seemed to sort of kind of catch the ball and then throw it. But look, you can only score the goals that are put in front of you. January is looking like it's going to be really crucial for Newcastle. I think we know that they can score goals, but we are going to need to see if they can find a way to keep goals out and find some sort of control in midfield for Newcastle. But look, the other thing I did want to mention that with Newcastle winning a game, it's now Levante and Greuther Firth. They're still the only two teams in the top 5 teams in Europe. Top 5 leagues in Europe, and the top 4 leagues in England to have not won a game. So, congratulations, Newcastle. This morning, Manchester United, they hosted Crystal Palace in Ralph Rangnick's first game in charge. And, I mean, the banter just doesn't stop with Manchester United, does it? Fred, of all people, he scored the first goal of the Ralph Rangnick era at Manchester United with a curling shot over Vicente Gaeta to give Manchester United the 3 points. Curiously, Ralph Rangnick said after the game he was very pleased with Ronaldo's pressing efforts. And agreed with the reporter when he said it will shut up some of the headlines. So he seems like a bit of a character, doesn't he, old Ralph?
I saw Fred Imcham. Yeah, it was trending on Twitter this morning. I was a little bit nauseous at that point, but it's there's a lot of people quick to sort of jump back on the Fred wagon.
Look, I've always liked Fred. I think.
Well, I think it was interesting. I think it was interesting to watch Fred because obviously Rangnick's changed the formation, and Fred in this game, as a lot of people have said before, is far more suited to playing that role as more of an 8 than a 6. If you want to put numbers on positions, he likes to do that third man running where he gets into the box late. If you want a comparison, he's the poor man's Ramirez for the way Ramirez used to play at Chelsea, where he would get into the box late, and that's really what Fred is best at doing and hasn't been really able to do because United don't have a 6, and he's really had to take that role on. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes along playing in a bit of a different role.
Yeah, I think to, I guess, just expand upon that, I think part of the problem has been that Manchester United they still don't have a 6, right? It looks like Scott McTominay, it looks like he's going to be playing alongside Fred in like a double pivot. But I mean, tactically, I thought the most interesting thing about Ralph Rangnick's side was that, I mean, this was a carbon copy of what Hasenhüttl has been doing for the last 2-3 years at Southampton. It was 4-2-2-2 with 2 strikers, 2 deep line midfielders, and kind of like 2 10s/wingers that have got a little bit of freedom to sort of move around and kind of do their thing, but they have to work really hard at pressing as well. So it also doesn't make any it's not a huge surprise as well with Hasenhüttl. He was bookended by Ralph Rangnick at RB Leipzig for with 2 12-month stints. So we know where Hasenhüttl has learned all of this from, and so it'd be interesting to see how those two teams go when they actually play each other later on this season. So, boys, Manchester United, they played the bottom 3 plus Brentford and Brighton in December. Very gentle set of fixtures. Are you expecting this to begin a good run of form for Man United, or you think they'll have a few blips and maybe drop points? Not on the semi-regular, but what are your thoughts?
I think they sort of carefully planned when they were going to appoint this interim manager, because this interim manager is going to come in now with a run of fixtures that are and expected to be very winnable games. And if he comes off the back of 4 wins from 4 games, then everyone's in love with him, and United feel like they're on top of the world again. So they've really held off making this decision to sack Ollie and then appoint an interim manager, and they've kind of done it all at the perfect time, really. So credit to Man United, where this is probably one of the best decisions they've made since the post Sir Alex Ferguson era.
Since they appointed Moyes, arguably. No bites. Boys, Wolves, they hosted Liverpool in a game that threatened to get away on Liverpool a little bit, as this one sort of drifted at 0-0 for quite some time. Jesse, Liverpool fan, you stayed up late for this one after getting home from the pub on Saturday night. Did you always feel like Liverpool were going to find a winner, or you felt like this game was going to stay 0-0?
No, I had that sinking feeling after about the 60-minute mark that it was just going to be one of those games where you try everything and it doesn't work, and I'd basically resign myself to that. But I am a bit of a tragic when it comes to like at the end of games. I always believe, even if it's the 93rd minute and there's 94 minutes on I still think that a team can win. It's sort of like, not to the fat lady sings kind of thing, and it really was pretty much the last attacking move of the game when Van Dijk chose to hit that diagonal. And at first you're like, we could be just ceding possession here. But then you see him cut out about 4 Wolves players in one pass. And then obviously you see what happens next with Origi. But yeah, there were a lot of fist pumps watching it in bed with my AirPods on.
Were you singing, I believe that we will win?
No, but that is something that I will add to the locker, and I will use it at some stage, Tommie. But no, it was. I think the last time this sort of happened with Liverpool, as far as wins like this, is kind of like Aston Villa a year or two ago, where we were, I think we were 1-0 down with about 5 or 6 minutes to go, and we scored 2 late goals to win it. Similar feeling to it, like much more like that title winning year where we were actually, showing a bit of steel to win these games. And considering that Chelsea's been kind of setting the benchmark for that so far, you need to win these games. Like you really can't, especially when Chelsea drops points. I mean, I'm not unrealistic and think that we can win every week, but I think that when your rivals lose, you kind of need to take advantage. So.
And take advantage you did with Chelsea obviously dropping points as well. But look, Southampton, they hosted Brighton, and Southampton looked to have all 3 points lined up, but Brighton managed to find an equaliser through Neil Maupay, pulling a rabbit out of his hat late on in the game. Jesse, if Wellington are the Brighton of the A-League, then who is Wellington's Neil Maupay?
I'd say Ball. I think he just, promises so much and then just, doesn't score as much as he probably should.
Maupay to a T.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not like players in any means, but I think if he's probably the closest person I can think of that's kind of underperforming what he should be. Yeah.
Well, Brighton haven't won in their last 5 games, and they're still in the top half of the league. So a bit of a bad spell for Potter.
Yeah, and I guess they're really. Wow, sorry, I missed that. They're really benefiting from that positive start. I mean, if they hadn't had that good start, wow, he'd be under some real pressure by now. It's probably only really what Rafa Benitez is taking the heat off of him. But look, on the positive side of this game, Southampton doing bits, like they got another point after drawing with Leicester midweek as well. They're up to 14th, and they could be as high as 11th if not for goal difference. So, Southampton, Jesse, you're hating this, aren't you?
This gets worse for my predictions. Just don't back anything I say, lads. Unbelievable. Another year, Southampton's done it again.
Yep. The plumbers just like circling the drain and just never go down. Boys, Watford hosted City. City they look like they could have racked up an absolute cricket score here, and Watford did well to only keep it to 3. Bilver was on fire with a double here. Boys, is Bilver the best player in the Premier League after Salah and Rice?
He's up there with some of the best players in the league. It's hard to go past Salah. Don't know about Rice, but
whoa.
I mean,
harsh on Deckers there.
You can't judge everybody based on an a cappella performance in a Twitter space. Okay, let's talk football.
Fair. Something like we've talked about Danny Rose on the pod before, and Bilver was another player who made him look absolutely terrible again. I think if Watford are going to be doing any business in the transfer window this January, they've got to find a new left back if they are going to have any hope of staying up. Because I mean, Danny Rose, he looks non-league at the moment. He was terrible again.
If you're going to put him out of his misery, you're going to have to use the silver bullet.
Yeah. Oh, grim. Leeds, they hosted Brentford in an absolute rollercoaster of a game. Leeds looked like they were coasting at 1-0, but 2 second-half Brentford goals made it appear as though the result was slipping away from them. But alas, Patrick Bamford, upon his return from injury, equalised at the death, while Islam Meslier was also up for the corner. Both teams kind of looked to be disappointed with the result after leading at stages of the game, but Damo, you've got a bit of a take on this, don't you, about Leeds' reaction to the scoreline?
Yeah, you said both teams looked a bit disappointed. I think it's the complete opposite. If you see the way Leeds, the players, the fans, everyone celebrated in a home game, scoring a last-minute equaliser against a promoted lower mid-table side, it's not a good sign for Leeds, although they've got a couple of points in the last few weeks, which have been huge points. They've been circling that relegation zone and yeah, huge couple of points for Leeds. So it's probably more the fact that they've been able to pick up points again when they haven't been picking up many points lately at all. So it's probably more than that than the context about me just liking to shit on Leeds.
So Leeds have been doing a Southampton recently by circling the drain the last few weeks, but
pretty much.
Spurs, they hosted Norwich this morning. Pretty regulation 3-0 victory for Spurs, who have quietly snuck up to 5th and still have a game in hand as well. So they could actually sneak into the top 4 if they win their rescheduled game in hand against Burnley, which is pretty wild to think that it wasn't that long ago that Conte joined the club and they've won three on the trot now. So things looking up very much for Spurs. And they did this as well with like a back three of Ben Davies, Eric Dyer and Sanchez as well. I mean, this is a back three that really have no right to be sort of even in like the top 4 conversation at the moment. But they're doing
I think I don't know where I said it, but I think I said earlier in the week that it's strange that when Spurs sack a manager or something like this, they always seem like they're always in crisis, but they're always within what is really Spurs' level. They're anywhere between 4th and 7th, and they don't really get any better or worse than that. But I don't know. It's strange. They were only a couple of wins away from the top 4 with a game in hand, and they sacked their manager for that. So, yeah, it's all a bit, I don't know. It's very Spursy.
Yeah. Finally, the other match of this weekend's round was Aston Villa knocked off Leicester. Leicester's poor form continues, and Villa's good form under Steven Gerrard continues as well. This time, Steven Gerrard was able to knock off his previous manager, Brendan Rodgers, which was a little bit spicy. But look, the result does see Villa go level on points with Leicester in 10th and 11th, respectively. Boys, a genuine controversial moment, and like there's a lot of VAR moments that really sort of like Sky Sports and the like try to make an incident out of and really just aren't. But this one I thought was interesting, which was the Villa disallowed goal where Schmeichel for half a second or like a 100th of a second had his hand on the ball and that was deemed to be that he had the ball under control. But as a Villa player, kicked the ball sort of out from underneath his hand. Do you think this one should have stayed a goal, or you think it was the right thing that it was called back?
Goalkeepers are protected species, aren't they?
Oof.
Hot take.
This is
they are though. He's right. Like they are. It's just like I think the really tough thing about this rule though is that like we're getting into rugby league areas is like down with pressure. Was it down with pressure?
Yeah, very similar. Very similar.
How much time does he have to have his hand on the ball? I mean, in fast speed, I think he would have been a very nervous goalkeeper, thinking that he didn't quite get to it in time. But then when you slow it down, it does look like he got to it in time. So in rugby league, they have to apply common sense to, did he get it down with pressure in real time as well? So that might be where they have to head to with VAR.
I mean, fortunately for the referees in this instance, this kind of thing, I can't remember the last time this has actually come up. I mean, I think I've seen this happen more in Sunday League than I've actually seen in like professional games where or the keeper's only had one hand on the ball and he's applying downward pressure as you described it. So, yeah, interesting times. But look, very interesting times for Villa as they continue to shoot up the table and their resurgence under Steven Gerrard. Boys, two more games I want to mention. Obviously, the Liverpool Derby with Everton hosting Liverpool. Jesse, I'm sure you enjoyed that result with Liverpool winning 4-1 at Goodison. What was it the Liverpool fans were singing? Walk home, walk home.
They were singing walk home with hope in your heart to the Everton fans at the league early.
Fantastic. I think they might have even been...
I've got an interesting stat about the Merseyside Derby after this game. That win by Liverpool at Goodison Park now means that Liverpool have won more Merseyside derbies at Goodison Park than Everton have at Goodison Park.
That's
so that's grim.
Poor bastards. Like no one wants. You don't want that to happen, do you? I feel bad for them. Pathetic. On the topic of Everton, though, they still have one game left to go this round. They host Arsenal. Obviously, Arsenal are in pretty decent form after a really good November. But, boys, do you see any result other than an Arsenal victory, though?
Well, you guys are pretty... I mean, we talked about this on the weekend. You were pretty confident that Everton just didn't have a chance in this game. This is the acid test because... I don't know if you guys saw overnight, but it looks like I think it's Brandt, the director of football's got his marching orders, and the club's actually got rid of him, and that's all the fans wanted his head because he's the one that apparently has been behind a lot of these failed transfers. So a lot of the pundits I was hearing on the BBC this morning were talking about that basically this is Benitez behind the scenes getting his sticky fingers in there and saying it's either me or the director of football goes, and they've backed Rafa.
Wow.
So it is interesting because if that's the case, Rafa does have a reputation for wanting complete control in these circumstances, and he clearly wasn't happy with the transfers, and obviously you saw it in his interview as well, where he's complaining kind of with what the situation was and what he'd inherited. So the club's obviously had enough and they've got rid of the director of football. So tonight's game is going to be incredibly important to see how they react. I mean, I know they haven't got all the best players back, but they've got to show some mettle. Like they have to. The
Go
fans.
out and my favorite sort of response to and people sort of saying how they need to react to this situation is that they say that Everton will need to get a whole bunch of yellow cards to prove that they were getting stuck in. So it'd be interesting to see how many yellow cards Everton get tonight to see whether or not they were really playing with passion. All right, boys, that pretty much wraps things up for this week, though. But before we say goodbye, I've got a prize to give away as part of More Than a Game FPL. 1st of December means Christmas decorations go up. Mariah Carey and Michael Bublé go into constant play in department stores, and it's also prize time. So, look. Emma Watson has been absolutely weaving magic this month in FPL, and her team, Clop of the League, scored 282 points for the month. So well done, Emma. Make sure you get in touch with us to collect your prize. So
sure, her team's called Hermione Granger's FC.
Yeah, really missed a trick there, didn't she? But Emma actually won a prize last year as well, so she's a bit of an FPL gun. So
yeah,
I missed an opportunity then. I should have said she was an FPL wizard. Damn it. Anyway, but look, that's all we've got time for this week on More Than a Game. So thanks for tuning in and enjoy the football.
See.